When I got on, I just sold one item, but it sold so frequently that I was like, this is crazy. Like you could build a business off of a very small catalog. There was 150,000 sellers. So we're talking about 95% less competition. I didn't even see a listing that had more than 5 people on it. I definitely learned the process very quickly, just jumped into the platform and just kept growing.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined with a very special guest, Joey Wheeler. Joey has been selling on Walmart now for quite a bit, and I would say there is no one more experienced or just my go-to guy than going to Joey, especially with retail arbitrage and Walmart. So today we're going to be discussing Walmart, his journey, retail arbitrage, navigating the platform, and everything involved. Joey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, my name is Joey. I got started selling in e-commerce. I started on Amazon in November 2021 and branched into Walmart in January of this year. And I think this week I'll break 10,000 orders. So far for the year. So pretty exciting little milestone this year. Never really anticipated being able to achieve that at the beginning. You never really know what the capabilities are until you just kind of try it out.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point that I think a lot of people are just now starting to realize like the potential that this platform has. Also, congrats on the 10K. If we ever meet up, beer's on me. So my first question is, what initially got you into retail arbitrage and how did you decide on the products that you wanted to sell and just like going about that? Because as someone who does wholesale and OA, it's a very different skill set and just like analyzing products and product research.
So I think obviously being on Amazon for a couple of years helped me, but I had always been RA. That was kind of my go-to with Amazon as well. And I think originally a lot of it had to do with proof of concept, right? You see somebody showing you orange bars, they show you these crazy numbers. I do this for my garage or I do this, whatever. But physically going to a store, scanning it, looking at the sales rank, comparing the Keep chart, and then actually translating that into sales is kind of what got me in the bug, I guess you would say. I think my first 2 months, I just sold one item, but it sold so frequently that I was like, this is crazy. Like you could build a business off of a very small catalog of replens and just do it over and over again because it was very consistent. So I think with Walmart, the challenge is always obviously there's no data. So you got to build your own data. You have obviously there's a lot of stuff out there that's going to give you some data, but from a sales velocity, there's not a test bias. What everybody said to me and what I continue to say now, even a year later. So obviously RA was my game, so it just made sense to kind of just take some of the stuff that I was already doing and test that stuff. So I got deactivated on Amazon in January for about 8 days. And I happened to be in a big run of Kohl's clearance. So I was sitting on, I think, maybe 500 units, and I couldn't list anything on Amazon. I couldn't send any orders in. So I took everything that I had between Kohl's, my death pile, and things that I was trying to do on eBay. And I think in the span of about 24 hours, I had 150 listings on Walmart. Now, obviously, that makes you want to pull your hair out because of the challenges of that. But I definitely learned the process very quickly, just jumped into the platform and just kept growing. I mean, I really never looked back. Obviously, I got my Amazon account back and was able to grab a little bit of capital out of that, funnel that into Walmart. I mean, I still do test buys the same way to this day. So when I first started, I took a lot of that I already had in house, right? And then as I started getting sales, I think it took me less than 24 hours to get my first sale, which is way less than it took me on Amazon. But then I just hit the Walmarts. Walmart was never really a place that I sourced heavily. Not really sure why. They obviously have clearance just like everybody else. They have, a lot of very popular things, but it just didn't seem like something that would interest me. I didn't, I would go there to get boxes to ship items into FBA, and that was about it. So I really just kind of jumped up into the clearance aisles and started to see what they had on clearance, what they had on their platform. And then I started seeing little things like, oh, this is available in the store, but it's not available in the online marketplace. So, okay, that might be a great opportunity for a WFS item for me. And I started seeing that Walmart was not only willing to share the buy box, but would give me the buy box over them in a lot of instances. That built my confidence even more because I already know that Amazon is willing to share the buy box, but very reluctantly or at a very small scale, you know. So I think those were some of the things that I started with right off the bat.
Yeah. So there's a lot to touch on there. One thing I just want to quickly note is, do you think it's a net negative or a net positive to Walmart to have a sudden influx of sellers not only sourcing their clearance, which I think is definitely a net positive, but to like specifically going to all these stores and looking at all these deals to resell onto the platform?
So for me, I think it's a net positive because obviously a lot of people have talked about the fact that, Walmart is such a large company, but when you compare their profit percentage to like other leaders in the industry, right? Their churn, their EBITDA, if you would, is around 3%. And they have some units that lose money due to theft. Obviously, they have a lot of theft. I've seen them yanking out self-checkouts currently right now. So in my mind, it's a net positive because you have professional people, for the most part, third-party sellers that are going to come in, they're going to buy it from you. So even if you're breaking even at the store level, you're then capturing the either 8 or 15% on the back end. And I feel like it's a net positive in the fact that it's going to provide stability for a large part of their workforce, right? Like they have, there are 28 fulfillment centers now that they have to staff and they have to provide. So I think any type of business that they can generate that they're going to be able to capture profit on is going to be a net positive to them as a business.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you also, I didn't even consider that point of the jobs. And I was just like, when you said that, it kind of spurred in my mind of like, as contractors, which I guess we kind of are for Walmart, it's less, it's less liability for them. It's just less work to have like, even let's say to say, why don't you go ahead and set up employees and then clear out your clearance and then flip it on Marketplace? Well, if they can just go ahead, they're not paying for your storage. They're not paying you to go through and pick out that inventory. You're doing that. And like once you buy it, they've already made their let's say their break even. And then any time that like you're taking, there's no net negative, there's no loss in just having you hold that inventory and then going ahead and shipping that in. So it is a really interesting point. And I think, as will progress and as Walmart progresses as a marketplace, we'll kind of see. So that also kind of ties into the other point that you mentioned, which is the buy box. Now, the buy box is probably the most, influential thing as a reseller, especially on either Amazon or Walmart. It's a mystery even to this day. After selling on Amazon for 8 years, people ask what the buy box is. I don't know the buy box. So Walmart is still very new, but it's completely different in the way that like, you mentioned that they share it with you. And a lot of people are surprised by that. But I'm also like, I was initially, but then you start thinking Amazon doesn't have any of these retail stores versus Walmart. They kind of want the marketplace to, in my opinion, it's their AWS. They want to use this to go ahead and to, give you that buy box to, like you said, to get that 8%, that 15%, because their inventory, whatever you see there, it might be at a store. It might not just be at a fulfillment center. So even if it's just like sitting in a store and they show it online, it could potentially be picked up by a customer. So it's a completely different way that they're factoring it in.
Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit to Walmart in general that they're willing to share the buy box with us where they're actually paying the fulfillment people to fulfill the orders and they can continue to keep the staff members that would normally be fulfilling a Walmart order at the store level, they can keep them focused on keeping the shelf stock, taking care of the retail customers in the store. I mean, anytime I'm in Walmart, you see the employee walking around with like the three-tiered cart with the blue crates on it where they're fulfilling, online orders in the store. So that's an added expense. Obviously they can afford it, but if they can divert that expense and ship it from a fulfillment center that's already handling it, why not?
Yeah. And it's something that's like, I think as we get more data, as more smarter people than me get into the space and they start analyzing like what determines the buy box percentage, like, is it just a regional level? Is it just like everything that's involved with that? It's going to be really interesting to see kind of like how that breaks down. Because I think even to this day, Walmart is still learning from like letting on so many sellers. I mean, imagine going from a business, like you said, having a 4% profit margin to now growing another business that could potentially, I don't know if it'll overtake their retail presence, but it can definitely get to like 300, 400 billion if they play the cards right.
Yeah, I think propensity for their growth though is definitely greater than Amazon because you have to feel like, so that's
And
exciting times.
with Walmart's growth, one question that I always get asked is, do you think Walmart can sustain not just the increase like from 100 to 200, which I think they can, but on the seller end, let's say there was 100,000 or I think it was 400,000 by the time of Seller Summit. Let's say that doubles or triples and we have 1.2 million sellers. That's almost as many as Amazon. I mean, I think Amazon has what, like 2.5 million active sellers. Do you think Walmart can sustain that amount of sellers or at the rate that like we're seeing people hop on?
So, I mean, I think a couple things. I think they can. I think the staffing is going to be the biggest challenge. I think if you're on the platform, you realize, especially if you're on the platform at the beginning of the year, the level of customer service, the ability to speak to someone within, I mean, even now you can create a case and they can, hit call me, during normal operating hours, and you have somebody that calls you, they're in the US, they speak English, and they're concerned about your business and solving your problem, right? So my biggest concern, I think everybody's concern, is as they are able to fill these needs of staffing, is the customer support going to go down considerably, like comparatively with Amazon? I think that's the biggest thing right now is that they have great customer support. They take care of their sellers. I think new sellers are getting an incubation agent. I got an onboarding agent for Canada and Mexico marketplaces. They have agents for SEM or Walmart Connect. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. I would honestly prefer that they slow down accepting sellers and build that part up because we just were just talking about this in TBB earlier that I was getting ungates in 3 days, as early as May, and I recently got an ungate that took 2 months and 3 days. You know,
Yeah. And you mentioned reseller friendliness, and I think it's an interesting time because me, especially me being not to say that you're old. Sorry, didn't mean to apply that.
that's all
But
right. Grace.
I just interviewed Tracy, Seven Figure Grammy, and
Yeah.
she's been selling on Amazon since 2000. And like you hear about the nuances of the platform and just like the differences. And going through Walmart now, we're still at that cusp, I would say, of like where the market and the sellers they're still figuring it out, that relationship and where we sit. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they play that off in do they keep the same level of support? Do they have like a kind of a offshore, more of just like a, open and close shut case with like Amazon does? Is it going to be like eBay where it's very faceless? So it is going to be interesting to see how they take that approach. I think there is huge room in the market for having a very interactive relationship with your sellers. But at the same time, you're also seeing policies that are not with resellers in mind, such as like right now, they're not refunding any return shipping. Like they'll refund the entire amount to me, but they will not refund any. Like I've opened up over probably 150 cases by now, and they have not budged. They said their new policy. They said this even before they posted the policy, and like it's like they're adding these policies to like where they want to invest the resources, but anything on the return side or anything where they're losing money, they're like, how do you see that playing in both the customer support and just the policies?
So personally, I feel like they have an opportunity to lean into third party sellers or resellers, if that's what you want to call it, and really cultivate a great relationship because I think the majority of third party sellers, let's be honest, arbitrage has been around, longer than anything, right? So I
Second
don't,
oldest profession.
right. And I don't think it's going anywhere. But the challenges with Amazon are valid in the fact that they want to improve supply chain. They want to make sure that they're selling, authentic products. So I think Walmart's definitely leaning into that as well. They have the IP restrictions, but they give you the update, right? They say, hey, we're going to cancel this, in 45 days. I think the return dashboard that they're supposed to be rolling out in Q4 is going to drastically help the things that you're talking about because one of the things that they talked about at the summit was fraud on the platform. A lot of people don't know this, but you know, they have a lot of large luxury brands on the platform. One of the people that I talked to at the summit, Joma Shop, which is a large, I think the largest retailer on eBay, they sell Rolexes, they sell luxury bags, things like that. So I think if they're going to lean into large resellers like that, they're going to have to improve some of the stuff. And I think, but some of the things that they're already better at, like if something's damaged in transit, I get that refunded to me usually within 72 hours. And I don't know if that just has to do with their partnership with FedEx, but not only do they refund me the money, they return me the damaged product as well. So
On
I can,
WFS.
yes. Yeah, on my WFS shipments, in large shipments, if there's something damaged in transit on its way to WFS or in the receiving process, I get those items returned to me and I get them refunded. And I get them refunded at the sale price, within 72 hours. I mean, I got one of my first shipments, they crushed 2 boxes and I got like an $1,100 credit within 48 hours. So, I mean, things like that can really help. Whereas, on Amazon, you have to submit your receipts, you get approved, and then Amazon gives themselves 60 days to return you your money. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges in Amazon is they talk about how much money they keep tied up of sellers from capital. But, I think everything in the space is going to be a challenge as they move forward are authentic. I don't mind proving where I bought them from. I think some of the things, from like the Section 3s or whatever, like having your supplier, if that was the case, then the middle guy's cut out and I'm just going to buy from him. So a lot of times when you're dealing with a wholesaler like that, they don't want to provide that information because then you're going to bypass them and just go to the next guy up, unless there's like an order value limit or something like that. But I mean, only time will tell, really. I mean, we've seen the platform change so much since January that I've been on that you can never really say what's going to happen.
Yeah. And it is going to be interesting to see where kind of the pieces fall. I think they're also trying out a lot of things and they're figuring it out just as much as we are. They just added like a bunch of new tabs to the dashboard and then like a couple of them were removed. So they're still trying to figure this out. And as sellers, I really don't feel like we're at the beck and call of Walmart. I also think that they are trying to be a little bit more strategic with this than just like saying, like Amazon, like you said, they give us those 45 days rather than just like, okay, Section 3, you're off the platform, no warning, no this and that. When you get an IP complaint, you're not automatically kicked off. You're not automatically deactivated. Like they'll just say for this listing, we have received an IP complaint. It's now unpublished. If you want, if you want to resell it or whatever, you have to send us the documents. So they are trying to work with sellers, I think, in a lot of regards. And I think, like you said, we'll just have to, time will tell. Yeah, so I think I want to shift the conversation more towards product research, analyzing data, because it's kind of like where a lot of sellers struggle. It's also where you find your edge on a lot of sellers because you start to build your own intuition. And I've started to source product categories that I've never sourced before, but you start to notice like, especially let's say for retail arbitrage, I maybe bought like 3 to 4 or even $5,000 of like going to Walmart clearance, and through that I've noticed that the kind of the data I've seen from Walmart listings, like I'll scan a product in there and it's a product that's sold in store and online. It'll have like one verified review from like 3 years ago. And to me, that's actually like a decent sign of life. And I'll go ahead, I'll buy that and I'll sell it within like maybe a week. And then I'll have products online that are not sold in store. They're other products. And if I don't see a verified review on there, let's say within the past like 4 or 5 months, I know it's not really selling. So there's a lot of like, that's not a general rule, but there's a lot of
Right.
data like that. So I know that you're also doing OA. Do you have like a different product research for both strategies?
Now, I think from an RA standpoint, one thing that you do, so first of all, like I would say 60% of my catalog is directly sourced from Walmart, whether it's clearance, whether it's online, deals week, or, whatever. I would say that if you're doing retail arbitrage and you're in the clearance stores, you will see the same item at multiple stores at different prices. So you can start to learn the nuances of, okay, this store has its clearance markdowns on this day, and this store has its clearance markdowns on this day. And then you start communicating. I'm a big fan of talking to the managers, talking to the staff, handing out business cards, creating relationships because so many people treat retail employees, people in that industry, poorly. That if you just go in there, you have a good attitude, you have a great rapport, you just ask questions, you're not pushy. You'll find out a lot of information. I've been in a store where they flat out told me like, hey, we're doing this aisle today. You're gonna have to come back on Friday if you want the other aisle discounted because we're not gonna have time to get to it. Cool, no problem. I do all my shopping on one aisle and I hit it. So my biggest thing is the shopping app. Obviously, that's going to tell you the most accurate price in store. So I don't really use software for that, because anything that you scan with a software, you're going to get the online price, right? The most recent published price. So I love the shopping app for that standpoint. And then I've used pretty much everything. I mean, Scan Power is probably my go-to because I can toggle back and forth between Walmart and Amazon. So I like to look at as much data as possible. So I'll look at, reviews, verified reviews. I'll look at that I do like from the Amazon data on Scan Power is I can see price consistency across 365 days. I can also jump directly into Keepa and look at, what kind of variations are out there. What's the most popular variation on Amazon? But some categories, like you said, if it has one of the badges, then you're great. But I had a bestseller that had, before it was actually the bestseller, it just had one review and it was like 2.5 stars. But it's in the toy category, right? So we talk about this all the time. Like, as a parent, I never rated one of my kids' toys, right? Like, I don't care. Like, I gave it to them, they played with it, they're happy, they leave me alone, right? Go back to watching football. But in that space, like, there's certain things, like you said, like, I've never sold a faucet before, right? I've never sold air filters. But if you think about what do people go to Walmart for, that can give you, there's so many things there.
I've never
So
shopped at Walmart, so that was like a
right,
big
right,
learning
yeah. I
curve.
mean, I'm not a big Walmart guy either. Like, if we're going to Walmart, we're going there for a specific reason. We're getting in, we're getting out, and we're trying to go either super early in the morning or late at night. So I do like verified reviews. I like price consistency. I like to look at number of sellers. I've used Marta. I've used Data Spark. I just recently started using Sellify for OA stuff.
Let's go Sellify.
Thanks for that link. I appreciate it. I think I sent it to like 3 other people. So
Affiliate link down below.
if you see some other people and you're like, I don't know who those are, that was probably from me. But I think the more data you have at your disposal, the better. But at the same time, I'm just going with my gut. Like, if I have a brand, like Barbie, right? We know Barbie's popular. So if I can make money on it and I can sell it, then I'm going to buy it at a right price. Now, there are plenty of times where I know the clearance routine at a store. So I'll buy something at $10 and I'll also buy it at 5, but sometimes I might see it at 12 and I'm like, okay, I'm making a mental note that I'm going to come back and pick those up next week. Now they might not be there. Somebody might have bought them at 12, but more than likely they're going to be there and I'm going to just wait to get the price that I want. So I think sometimes with Walmart, it's a little bit of a waiting game because the volume is less and so many more people are jumping on the platform. And, I think a lot of people have this misconceived notion that Walmart just wants you to have the lowest price or everything at Walmart's cheap. Now, they do want you to have the lowest price. That's literally their motto, right? So you have to factor that into your decision making. So with Scan Power, I can see what it sells for on Walmart. So maybe I'll put, 10 items on Walmart, 15 on Amazon. If it sells for $5 more on Walmart, I'm keeping it on Walmart and I'm taking less volume and more profit. So I think those are the big keys for me.
Well said. And I think as a kind of as we wrap up, my last question would be to you, as someone who has been deactivated on Amazon and who has, gone through that strategy or just that mindset of changing marketplaces and solely focusing on Walmart. So this is a two-parter. One for newer Amazon or newer Walmart sellers that have sold on Amazon looking to start with Walmart. Do you think that Walmart would be like how would they best go into that? And then the second question is, do you think Walmart is a marketplace that you can solely focus your business on?
So for newer sellers, I think the challenge right now is going to be only sell what you're not gated in, right? Gating right now is ungated in. I've done it with as few as 2 units or 1 unit, so that part's easy. But the problem is it takes 2 months right now, right? They're so behind. So if you're getting on Walmart and you want to sell, Disney and it requires an ungate, don't do it, right? But if you're want to learn the platform, you're just going to focus on selling. I mean, I got stuff sitting in my garage that I bought because I know that I'm going to get approved for I've never been denied with a Walmart receipt. So that's just been my go-to. But It's super easy to get on the platform. There's some differences between what they'll accept, but I think it's definitely a viable option for especially this time of year. Like you can get in and get some knowledge, build up a small catalog of things and push forward that into. I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have started in Q4. I find things now that I'll go and buy, and I'll list them seller fulfilled, and they sell the same day. And now because I've been on the platform, I get paid tomorrow. Daily payouts are a big thing after. I think you have to be on the platform for 180 days and fulfill a couple metrics, but daily payouts can be a game changer to keep flowing capital and whatnot. As far as running your whole business, I think I would prefer to run my entire business on Walmart. I do a lot of apparel and grocery on Amazon, so I'm looking to hopefully be by the end of the year 50-50. That was my goal at the beginning of the year. Now, right now, I'm more like 75-25. So if I can get to 50-50, I think that definitely, I mean, I know sellers like yourself. I know other sellers that do all RA. I mean, I know some sellers that just do six figures a month in one category. So the opportunities there, I think there's a lot more challenges now than there were a year ago from as far as competition, right? That's the biggest thing when you talk about Amazon being at 2 million sellers and Walmart being at 400,000. I think if that's the number right now, I mean, when I got on, there was 150,000 sellers. So we're talking about 95% less competition. I didn't even see a listing that had more than 5 people on it for probably 6 months. Now I see listings that have 22, 23 people, and you don't really know how long you're going to sit on that stuff because I haven't been through a Q4 before. I think definitely you can run an entire e-commerce business on Walmart if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think you don't take it as like don't be stagnant in your what you sell. Walmart is a different platform, different customers,
Oh, yeah. You
so
got to go so wide because it's like when I started doing apparel, right? It's like there's so many brands of apparel out there. There's so many things that I've sold on Amazon I've never even heard of. And the only reason I heard of them is because I scanned it. It had an okay sales rank and I tried it. And Walmart is got just as many SKUs on their platform, and it is a lot easier to add items to the Walmart platform. I think so. There's a plus and a minus there. They're using sellers to build out their catalog and to help, whether it's add MSDS sheets, add a lot of compliance documentation, whether it's like bicycle helmets, and it's whether or not they accept it as a challenge, but you can do it, right? So if you have an item that isn't on Walmart Marketplace, that could be a great place to start to create a listing. But I think there's a ton of opportunity there. If you're not on the platform, you're probably missing out.
one of the largest sellers on Walmart right now is someone who is called Target Plus something, and their whole store is just listing out Target Plus. I'll send you the storefront.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. And I guess what this all comes down to, we're all new in this game. Even the oldest sellers on the platform who have been in there years, or the platform's just a different platform than it was years ago. I've been on this since 2019 is when I started selling on Walmart. And I mean, there was no WFS until like 2023. So we're all still new in this, and it's going to be a wild ride, but it's a profitable one. So I definitely recommend
Yeah, I
new
mean, I
sellers.
see. It's funny you say that because they've actually had third party sellers since 2009. I never
They
even,
had them since the early
feel like
2000s. They had big sellers.
yeah. But since I don't think in like maybe 18 months ago was the first time I heard any type of buzz about Walmart. And it's funny, I actually set my account up, I think around this time last year, and I didn't use it for about 3 months until I got deactivated. I got so busy with Amazon in Q4. So, if you're going to make that jump, just set aside, even if it's just a couple hours a day or one day a week, set aside some time, learn the platform. There's just so many tools out there to help you along the way. There's so many great people in the space. I mean, obviously, Noah's here, whether it's Sarah or Tracy's, they both have, really large Facebook groups. Cody has a Discord. There's just a lot, I mean, I'm in the buy box. Like we have a large Walmart group, and it's growing every day. There's just so many opportunities out there, and it's not necessarily about what you know. Sometimes it's about who you know. So there's plenty of people out there that'll help you.
Yeah, there are so many resources out there and just so many people that you can go ahead and connect with. And I think with, so you mentioned not hearing any buzz about it. I mean, when I started selling, the buzz was about drop shippers just because it became just a marketplace outside of Amazon where there was a lot of traffic. I mean, in 2020, I believe they overtook eBay to become the second largest marketplace in the United States. And if you were a drop shipper, it was a gold mine because there was just no other competition there. You can go ahead and you can list your products and you would sell for way more than Amazon. There was you didn't have to lower your price. And then that was kind of like Walmart's first taste at a large expansion of third-party resellers or third-party sellers. And they just went ahead and they completely nixed that. They were issuing suspensions. That's where they started issuing like all the very strict on-time delivery. So people get penalized for delivering too early. Well, I mean, that's mainly because of drop shippers and just like all these other metrics, especially the refunds. The 20% is also a legacy of the drop shippers. So, definitely, they're learning and they're really developing the platform, I think, more towards the non-drop shippers. But yeah, as the space heats up, obviously more and more people are going to come into it, which I think is beneficial because just more knowledge, it means more people with more experience than yourself as RA, other sellers sourcing from different stores. And that's kind of like with the Amazon. It's a marketplace that's big enough to support all of the communities that you see. I know so many resellers, coaches, Discord, everything. And it's just because, the marketplace is there and we share and we learn. So yeah, for those who want to go ahead and find you, where can they find you?
Joey R. Wheeler 72 on everything, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, and you can probably find me every day in the buy box on voice chat. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. All right, Joey. Pleasure. Thank you for being on and thank you for sharing your knowledge for Walmart.
Thanks. I had a great time.
Peace. Everyone, thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next video.